So even now, there's so many great training events and conferences in our industry where we can go to these events, we can get the knowledge, we can go apply it.
My first year, because lucky for me, it's just 15 minutes from me.
Yep.
I was scared to go in there. Can you imagine me being scared of something? But yeah, I was scared to go in there. But I already knew that there are people in there doing things that I wanted to be a part of. And there's classes being taught, and there's some things that I don't know that I need to know.
You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership Podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process, because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. Before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you need to on social media to help this channel, this podcast, reach people and build leaders. That is our mission, to reach people and build leaders. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube at The Bearded Leader is where you can find this podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And speaking of leaders, I'm joined by a friend of mine, a leader in her own right, a leader in this industry. Our guest today is a shop owner of Brown's Automotive. She's an ASTA board member. She's also a mother, a fantastic mother, and her name is Tonnika Haynes. Tonnika, thanks for being here.
Good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, and I want to extend it in a special thank you, because I know you well enough to know, Tonnika, that you don't always love jumping on podcast and doing this, and I've been pestering you for a few months now, and I'm glad you finally said yes to be here. So yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate you for that.
Well, I want to extend on that. It's not that I don't like to, and I think this podcast is the perfect time to say this. Like, I haven't bought into the fact that I deserve to yet.
Okay.
So, and that just came from the hip. So that you said that, I have learned in the last couple of years, but really in this year, that I've been preaching about certain things.
Yeah.
But I haven't been doing what I've been preaching. Like, so now I've been ministering to myself, like, you have to go and do the things. I was invited because apparently somebody wants to hear what I have to say. So
that's right.
Yeah.
People want to hear what you have to say. There's a lot of folks who are ready and excited to listen to you because you are a leader. And I want to make sure that I say that, because for people who may feel undeserving or unworthy or not really sure, I just want to remind you, Tonnika, you're a leader, and people listen. Like, when Tonnika speaks, people listen. And I know this because as I've gotten to know you and our mutual friends in the industry, I see the way that you are influential throughout the industry. And ultimately, you're contagious. You can either infect or you can affect. And what I see in you all the time is that you're affecting change. You're affecting change in a positive way. So I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to call you a friend. And I'm really excited to, for this audience to hear who you are, what you do, and how you do it. So on that note, go ahead and share with the audience who Miss Tonnika Haynes is, what you do, and how you do it.
Well, Tonnika Haynes, Brown's Automotive. I run a shop in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, second generation shop owner, mother of two amazing kids. Everybody can see them all over the social medias because they're my everything. And then like here lately, I've been more involved in the automotive community. And I think I am really looking forward to helping out the youth more. Since my kids are grown and get out of the house, I need some more network babies, and I want to affect change and bring in younger people into the industry, especially with my youngest son and his path and what he's chosen to do.
So let's speak about your youngest son, because I had the opportunity to be a trainer or speaker at the Fueling Connections event for the ASTA in April, and we visited the NASCAR Technical Training Institute, and your son was actually there. Talk about what he's doing and his own career path, albeit a young career path. Talk about what he's doing.
So Jordan has always loved cars. He loves to tinker. There was always Legos all over the floor. He's 19 years old, and in his room now are all the Lego cars that he built. Hanging around the shop as a kid, there's plenty of pictures of him just being there and being present, and he's a car guy. So he decided, well, actually, let me back up. It makes me sad to think that one day, right before he graduated, we were on the way to work, and he was working with me, maybe fall break, Christmas break, I'm not sure. And I remember him not being himself, because he is just a bubble. He's just joyful all the time. And we get to work, and I say, Jordan, what's wrong? I can sense something was wrong with my son. And I remember him saying, nothing, Mom, nothing. The first 3 to 5 minutes is nothing. Mm-hmm. And then I finally got out of him that all of his friends were receiving college acceptance letters, and he wasn't receiving any. And honestly, I'm not a bad mom, but I had no idea the kid was applying to college, because I just automatically assumed, you want to be in the industry. Mm-hmm. And so what's our next step? I didn't think he ever wanted to go to 4-year university, but he didn't. And I said, Jordan, I didn't think you wanted to go to college. And he said, I don't, but don't you want me to? That was painful to hear, because I don't think I ever told him that, but we'll talk about it later. Feelings and the story that he told himself, and all his friends were doing this, and he was just going to do what the sheep were going to do, right? But he decided to go to UTI. We visited the school. He loves it. He is one of the top students there. I'm so proud of him.
That's awesome.
Very proud. Yeah.
I love hearing that. So you mentioned you're a second generation shop owner. Jordan may presumably become the third generation shop owner. At least he's following in your footsteps so far. So I'll ask you, years ago when your father started Brown's Automotive, did you always envision you being the second generation shop owner following his footsteps?
No, not at all. So I grew up in Charlotte, and Charlotte is the banking capital, and it was when I was a kid, and I just wanted to be dressing up to go to work. Mm-hmm. I want to be fancy. So you just see the people downtown in the power suits and the briefcase, in the 80s and the 90s. And I wanted to be a part of that world. So I thought I wanted to be in corporate America. Mm-hmm. But as I spent more time with Dad, a lot of people know I spent about every summer there, and I really started working full time at 16. I grew to love it more, but not into college. When I did go to college, but I went to college full time, but I worked every other day at the shop. So I did all my classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because I was only 45 minutes to an hour from the shop, and I loved it. But I was able to see how I could apply business and marketing and help Dad out, because Dad was a body man that turned business owner. But I was like, oh, there is a spot for me. So I didn't really think I would, but this has been my only job, and I love it.
So at what point in your life was there kind of this turning point where you're like, hey, you know what, actually, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the impact I'm going to try to make in this industry? Was there a particular defining moment or something that occurred, or did it just kind of happen gradually?
It just happened over time. Okay. Just spending the time with him. My first real dive into the industry and being a leader and having to do boss type stuff started at 16. So I worked the shop by myself for a summer in 16. So that was exciting and exhausting, but I still wanted to go to college for me. So I did that. But in college, when I would listen to the professors and then I could also go back to the shop and implement it, that was exciting for me, because I feel like I can go back and I can show Daddy what I'm doing in school. A lot of people go to school for years and they're not working, or maybe they're working at a restaurant, and so they're not really putting into practice what they're learning every day. So I was able to put it in practice immediately and I loved it. And it was on a smaller scale, and then helping people. Like, everybody wants to get a job and make money, but I could see, okay, this is not just about fixing cars. This is actually service and helping people. So that was pretty cool.
I love
so
that.
It was like gradual, but I was hooked.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I really appreciate what you just shared too. And that is, we're in the business of serving people. We get to serve people, take care of people, really love on people. And the transaction is a natural byproduct of exceptional standard setting service. Yep. And I think a lot of us, and not just this industry, but just in general, sometimes we get so fixated on the transaction and the sale and the KPIs, and it really takes away from all the value that we have to offer just from a people standpoint, just be able to serve people, love on people. And I also like the fact that you mentioned, you went to college, you'd leave class, you'd be able to apply that information immediately, and you'd see the ROI on the information that you just gained. I mean, years later, you can see the same thing. You and I are both just coming off the heels of the Tools Conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of incredible trainers there who are providing a lot of great knowledge, but we know that knowledge without application is just information. So even now, there's so many great training events and conferences in our industry where we can go to these events, we can get the knowledge, we can go apply it, and then we can really see the benefits firsthand as well, which I think is a fantastic thing to be a part of.
And more people need to do that. I can't remember the years. I want to say this is going to be my 5th year at ASTA Expo, but my first year, because lucky for me, it's just 15 minutes from me.
Yep.
I was scared to go in there. Can you imagine me being scared of something? But yeah, I was scared to go in there, but I already knew that there are people in there doing things that I wanted to be a part of. And there's classes being taught, and there's some things that I don't know that I need to know. Mm-hmm. And some people don't like coaches. They don't like the idea of somebody telling them what to do in the business. And here's what I say about that. Okay, so you don't have to drink all of the Kool-Aid. Mm-hmm. You don't have to eat everything that's on your plate, but there is something there that could help you in business. And I think when people just don't listen or don't get any trainer and coaches, then they're doing themselves a disservice. If you know everything, then you're probably just dead to the water, because
that's right.
You should always be learning.
I like something that I think is pretty evident, not just in this industry, but just in general. And that is really what coaching is and what coaching isn't. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people do think that a coach is going to jump on a call with you to tell you all the things that are wrong with your business. And I'll say this, my own personal coaching approach is that I don't jump on a call to give you all kinds of advice. I don't jump on a call to give you my opinion. As a coach, my opinion, quite frankly, is irrelevant. Right. But what I am going to do is show up and ask a lot of questions and help potentially shift perspective, if necessary, on the things that you might be blinded to. Mm-hmm. And I'm biased because I am a coach, but I also have my own coach. In fact, I just hired my second coach. So I have been working with a coach twice a month. I just hired a second coach to work with once a month. I go to counseling once a month, and I'm married to a licensed counselor, so I get free counseling even when I don't want it, which is all the time. But I'm saying this to say this. I'm saying that to say this. It's important because I know that I have blind spots, and I know that I have a long way to go and a long way to grow. And we can't expect to hire a coach and have them just jump on a call with us and tell us all the things that are wrong with us. I mean, ultimately, we want to trust that the people that we are hiring or working with or being mentored by are going to speak truth into our life to help us recognize the opportunities to go from great to greater. And I like the fact that you're alluding to the fact that if you go to the ASTA Expo or these other events, there is so many people there who have the same heart and desire as you, Tonnika, and that is they want to help. People want to help each other, and so I like that you mentioned the ASTA Expo. The ASTA Expo this year is coming up in Raleigh, North Carolina, September 25th through the 27th. And help correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the Raleigh Convention Center this year?
Yes.
Okay. So if I'm listening, and from Tonnika Haynes, why should I be coming to the ASTA Expo this year?
Because there's so many things that you don't know that you don't know.
Period. Point blank.
There's so many things that you don't know that you don't know. It's going to be eye-opening. And if you don't get it in the classroom, you're going to get it in the lobby. Mm. You're going to find that brother, sister, mentor that might be just one step ahead of you that was where you were, that can speak your language and that can help you out. I've got a lot of those. So
Talk about
there.
Talk about the, you're referencing the power of networking, and
Yes.
what you and I both know is the training is great, the information that you're going to get is great, but the relationships, they could potentially last a lifetime, and you are surrounding yourself with some incredible people who have a desire to help and be helped. And also they're walking the same journey as you. They're experiencing the same challenges and the highs and the lows, and really, quite frankly, the discouragement of business ownership, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows. And we know that. So talk about the power of networking and what you've personally experienced from your first ASTA Expo 5 years ago to where you're at now, and the relationship that you formed along the way.
Relationships. So I've got so many brothers. It is amazing. I remember first walking into the hotel lobby, and it's breakfast time. So everybody's sitting there breakfast. And if you've been watching this podcast and you know me, you know how I talk. Walking in there, there's a bunch of old white men. And I'm like, whoa, where am I at? You know, oh my God, what have I gotten into? But it was the most inviting atmosphere that I'd been in. Mm-hmm. My favorite, the first and one of my favorites that I met, John Firm, also known as Buckaroo Bob.
Yep.
So inviting, able to connect with people, similar stories. You know, we might have different haircuts, different beards, different outfits, but we have similar stories. And so just the networking was amazing. But moving forward, last year, it tickled me that I was actually sought out as a mentor by certain people. So for people to come up to me in the lobby and say, mm-hmm. Hey, Tonnika. And I'm like, whoa, who are you? Oh, we think you're great. I was like, that feels so good. And for me to be able to help somebody through a situation, because there's no problems, right? A bunch of situations. It's like, okay, yeah, I did that before. This is what I did. Or, yeah, I haven't done that before. I haven't been through that, but I know this guy, and he, has been in a similar situation. So that part of networking is great, to be on the other side of the fence.
It's not surprising.
Lifelong relationships, crazy.
That's it. It's lifelong relationships, and it extends beyond the workplace too, because they've become friends. They become family, and and it's not surprising that you were sought out to be a mentor. I was doing the same thing before I met you in person. I was bugging you online saying, "Hey, I want to connect. I want to have you on the podcast. I want to get to know you more." I think one of the first time, and I've been. I was with Christian Brothers Automotive for a long time. And so I was in this Christian Brothers Automotive bubble. And when I got out of it, I realized this industry is way bigger than I thought it was. And I'm still, relatively speaking, a small fish in a massive pond. But the way that you and the rest of the ASTA crew and other folks around the industry have really welcomed me with open arms. I mean, it's really, it's not a surprise that you're talking about what you do. Like I'll say this, when I was in the military, I felt like I was never going to get that sense of camaraderie that I had. And then I get into this industry, the most unlikeliest of industries for me, if you know me, and I'm welcomed with open arms, and I really get that sense of camaraderie. And as I'm still getting to know you and the rest of the crew, I do want to personally thank you and say, like, it's meant a lot. I feel grateful and blessed, because I don't know that I'm supposed to be here. If we're kind of alluding to imposter syndrome, I'm not sure that I'm supposed to be here, but you guys are making me welcome. And I really appreciate that. Same
here. I feel like that sometimes still.
Yeah.
And then what I do is you feel like that. And then I hit one of my girls or one of my guy friends from the industry and say, hey, I'm feeling like this. And they're like, oh girl, please get over it. like okay. Right. Like, we're encouraging each other. We all have similar feelings, but everybody feels like, well, not everybody, a lot of people feel like they're on their own, because what do we put on Facebook and social media? And then the groups that we're in, we're doing all the positive stuff. And then if someone asks a question, then we're attacking them. Like, okay, that's a stupid question. So people can feel afraid to ask the questions that they need to ask. But if I can be a positive influence on somebody, I will.
Yeah. Well, and I know you are a positive influence. You are a fantastic leader. I'll just ask the question I ask on every episode. What does leadership mean to you, Tonnika?
I knew you were going to hit me with that one. And that's so difficult. Because you know what? Again, I don't feel like a leader yet. But, I feel like a leader never stops learning.
Mm-hmm.
They lead and they never stop growing themselves, and they give, you become a beacon of light for other people. It's not like, I'm the leader, I'm the owner of Browns Automotive. It's about responsibility. I'm responsible for feeding 7 households. It's about service. I'm responsible for servicing thousands of vehicles in our neighborhood. It's about integrity, when that part wasn't needed, actually refunding the customer. It's about doing all the right things when nobody's watching you. So it's about, setting standards. So.
I like it.
Yeah.
All correct. The good news is that there's no right or wrong answer to this question, but I completely agree with everything you just shared. One of the first times I learned who you were, as I referenced earlier, I just jumped out of this Christian Brothers bubble, really only a couple years ago. And I really found my way into the rest of the industry probably about a year ago. So not that long. And, but one of the first things I saw from you on social media is an article on, it was through Ratchet and Wrench. And it was about, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was something about how to fire your customers. And really your take on how, I believe this as well. The customer is not always right. It doesn't mean that we're not going to make things right, but the customer is not always right. So talk to the audience about what your take is on how to handle customers. And here's why I'm referencing this particular question for you, Tonnika. I see you do a great job at setting and, more importantly, keeping boundaries, professionally and personally, where you're not going to let someone disrupt your peace, including your customers. So talk to the audience about that and how you implement that on a daily basis.
So the joke is, I did the podcast with David and Lucas. My car is outside. I have a lot of cars. I can get home. We always say, I didn't build it, I didn't buy it, I didn't break it. And that is true. A lot of people get so upset, customers, because it is aggravating. The car breaks down. Wasn't an expense that they thought they were going to have that month. Or they might have something else going on in the background, and they can get away with just being mean. So with me, you get about 3 times before I turn into Tonnika. First, I think you have to say, all right, I understand why this, as a consumer, I understand why you're thinking this way. I can get that this is upsetting, but I'm here to help. We are here to come up with a solution to this situation. I will try to remind the customer that, hey, you're blessed. Some people don't even have a car to break down. So let's back up and think about this a different way. I try to change their mindset. Yeah. Like, I know you're mad. Nobody wants to come and spend $1,500 on a car. But this is also something that gets you and your family around. This is something that, if it's not fixed properly, can kill you or somebody else. I do not allow customers to discount the skills of my employees. In the industry, we have been described as, greasy mechanics, shade free. All you have to do is, the internet said, I don't allow that. So I try to say it with a smile, because, if you're smiling when you're trying to correct somebody, it works a lot better. Say, hey, we're not going to do that here. I understand you're upset. We're going to get past that, and we're going to go work on a solution. And if you still want to argue with me after this, I'm going to try it one more time. And after that, I would say, you know what, this is just not the place for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you a bad review. That will be great, because I will be happy to answer it. Yeah. Usually you can correct people because they don't know that they're being that way, or they've gotten away with it so long that they think it's okay. And someone to stand up to and say, hey, no, we're not going to do that. Yeah, no.
And again, that speaks to the boundaries, which I think is important. And I like the fact that, when I asked, what does leadership mean to you? One of the things that you said was standards. You're setting standards. Yeah. And I think it's important that we all acknowledge that this is, the automotive repair industry is one industry where it just seems like there's a lot of negotiations that occur. And at what point where can you go to negotiate, like, the price of your meal, for example? You know what? I want to get a nice steak, but I don't want to pay that. I'll pay this. And so, something that I've learned over the years is this concept of, like, If someone were to ask me, hey, well, can you lower your services, the price of your services? I'll say I can raise them, because ultimately I know the value that you're getting is actually far beyond the investment that you're making, and you're still asking me to lower my investment. I'm happy to raise them because it makes sense for me to raise them. It doesn't make sense for me to lower them. And so it's that setting, and again, more importantly, keeping the boundary that helps establish and maintain the standard that you're setting at Brown's Automotive. I'll ask you, Tonnika, whenever you transitioned from the daughter of the shop owner to the owner of the business, can you walk us through what that process looked like? What kind of advice would you give to someone who is in the same situation that you used to be, where they're likely going to become owner of their current shop that their family member owns? What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's in that same experience?
So going from an employee to the leader, that was difficult. It took a couple years to realize, okay, everything lands on me. And when I say everything lands on me, everything lands on me. That doesn't come in and say, well, it should do this. He's clocked out. He's done. I would say network, getting a good, 20 group or whatever, even if it's online. If you don't have the money for coaching, just go research all the things that are online. YouTube, you can see who the big coaching companies are. And you can just go in there and use all the free stuff. One thing that I would say is, get out of your feelings.
What do you mean by that?
We get overwhelmed with feelings. Your feelings cannot be trusted. I feel like giving up. I feel like this. I feel I didn't do this right. I feel that's a feeling. You can feel stuff all day. Feelings are real. But some of that stuff is just, one of my coaches said, it's a story that you told yourself.
That's right.
And while you're sitting there telling your story the same way, like, oh, woe is me, you're just messing up your future. Because, feelings are about the past.
That's good.
Yeah, so it'll mess up your whole future if you get stuck in your own way, get stuck in your own feelings or your own practices, or even stuck in the way that your dad used to do it.
We know that emotional maturity is having feelings, but not letting our feelings have us.
Right.
Outside of hiring a coach, a mentor, joining a 20 group, how can we not let our feelings have us?
You know what? That is a personal goal that everybody has. That's something personal everybody has to work on every day. You've got reading material. You have to understand what you're putting in your brain. What music are you listening to? What podcast are you listening to?
That's right.
What are you feeding yourself? Like, you got to first recognize that maybe I'm in my own way. And once you realize that, then how do you fix it? Like, I'm no coach on tell people how to fix feelings, but I know what I'm listening to in my ear, what I'm reading, what I'm watching on TV. It feeds. If I drive to work today and I'm listening to DMX or Ludacris, move, get out the way, I get road rage.
Yeah.
But if I'm taking that 30 minutes to work and I'm listening to a podcast from a coach, or listening to something funny, or listening to better music, it will change your whole way of thinking, or it will move your way of thinking to a different way.
My wife and I have 4 kids, and their ages are 14, 13, 12, and 9. And they're getting to that age where, first I'll say this. I mean, we're getting in the thick of it because they're all getting into their teenage years. And we had 3 of them in junior high, each grade last year. Now they're moving, we got our first high schooler, a couple of junior hires, and still in elementary school. But they're starting to attempt to listen to more things and to watch more things. And I often remind them, like, look, I'm 43 years old, and I will intentionally not listen to this or that, or not watch this or that, because I still, as a 43-year-old man who is a coach as a career, recognize that my mind is fragile. Like, if I don't know how to manage my thoughts and how to control my thoughts and how to challenge the thoughts that I'm having, which thankfully I do, but it doesn't mean that it's always perfect. I have the tools that I didn't have years ago, but it doesn't mean that it's always perfect. And I know that if I allow myself to feed myself the wrong things, to look at the wrong things, to watch the wrong things, to listen to the wrong things, to eat the wrong things, drink the wrong things, whatever, I know what it can do to my mind and subsequently what it can do to my life. And so I'm mindful of that. And, and I don't know if my advice to my kids may be falling on deaf ears, but ultimately, my hope is that they recognize, look, like I'm not just trying to tell you something and do the opposite. Like I do try to practice what I preach. So yeah, I appreciate the fact that you highlight that. I think that's important.
They're listening to you. I think as a mom, my kids are 19 and 21 now. So a couple weeks ago, I go into Santana's room. He's 21 and he's got books on his nightstand. So they're listening.
Yeah. You
might seem like you're a dog whistle right now. And then it's like they yes. can't hear anything, but you just keep saying it, because at 48, I laughed a couple weeks ago. Kim Walker sent, podcast or clip from a YouTube video. And after that video played, another motivational speaker came on, and it was Les Brown.
Okay.
And he's like one of the OGs.
Yeah. I'm a big Les Brown fan. Mm-hmm.
And I remember riding along with my grandmother back and forth to work and this, that, and whatever. And she always played Les Brown cassettes, because of course that's what we had. And it's not like I could tell my grandmother to turn the radio. So I heard that all the time coming up. And so just to hear that as an adult, I was like, oh man, I missed that. So I've been listening to that stuff my whole life. That's and sometimes awesome. So they're listening, and they might not do it now, but 4 to 5 years from now, you'll start to see that the seeds that you planted. Yeah,
that's encouraging. I appreciate you sharing that. That's I'm a big Les Brown fan too, so that's it's cool to hear you say that. Tonnika, so I've heard you on a number of podcasts, and one of the things I've heard a couple times is, and I don't know if you actually used these words, but what I took away from it was that your father left an incredible legacy. And I mean, he's still here, so I don't want to make it sound like but the legacy that he was able to establish and create and build. I've heard you tell stories about a former employee of his, who I believe went and opened his own shop and gave his first set of keys to your dad. Yeah. Can you talk about the legacy that he created and subsequently left in so many lives at Brown's Automotive?
Let's talk about leadership. Leadership is William Brown, and it's not like the leadership that we're thinking that, that you get a soft hug from your leader and he's encouraging you and using the best words. He's go, you've got this. That was a different leader, like the stereotypical Marine Corps drill sergeant, but it worked so well. And he did it in a way that we really can't explain it. I was talking to Jimmy Lee last week, and it just came to me. I was like, he was just like Mr. Miyagi. You're just doing a lot of stuff, and he would tell you to do it, and you didn't get to ask why you had to do it. You just did it because why? Because I said so. Yeah. But in the end, like I told Jimmy, I was like, all the things that he would say to me, and I was just like, oh my God. And my grandmother too, the things that she would say. When it came to fight the battles, I was ready. Dad had so many younger people. He came in the industry like right at 20 years old, 21 maybe. He opened his own shop. As I can recall, almost all of my dad's employees that started with him were very young. Especially the Hispanic ones, they started 16, 17 years old. Yeah. And if he's had, just throwing out numbers, if he's had 100 employees over the last 45 years, 98 of them would show up for him right now. Wow.
That's incredible.
And I really don't know what the magic soup is or all the ingredients, but I hope I just have a little bit of that. Yeah. Because he's just such a leader. He's very... he doesn't deal in feelings. Like people laugh, like, oh, you work with your dad. That must be nice. Like, yeah, no, I didn't work for my dad. I worked for William Brown. Feelings didn't pay any bills. Feelings don't get things done. Feelings will get in your way. Well, let's talk about some facts. This is what's going to happen. This is why it's going to happen. Actually, he probably really didn't tell you why. But his leadership style, drill sergeant and Mr. Miyagi had a baby, and his name was William Brown.
Well, I got to assume that there's a level of accountability that he had for his team members that helped them develop into a person that maybe they themselves didn't believe they could develop into. And ultimately, I think leadership is about really pulling out the best in people and helping them grow and develop into other leaders. And I'll say this: when I was at Fueling Connections, you were on a panel that I was able to sit in on, and the way you were talking about your team members, I mean, you have a high level of respect for your team. And the same way I talked about boundaries earlier, you're not going to allow someone to disrespect any of your team members. And like when I heard you talking about them, it was very evident to me that you genuinely love and care about them. And I would assume that you probably got I know it's probably innate in you, but you may have gotten that from your father as well. Like if you got 98 out of 100 showing up for him, I would venture to guess you'd have the same type of ratio, Tonnika, because it's very evident you genuinely love and care for the people that you have the opportunity to serve as their leader. And that goes a long way. I mean, that it extends beyond the paycheck. It's not just about the paycheck.
It's more than a paycheck. And actually, one of my longest standing employees years ago said that. He said, you know what? Sometimes it's not always about the money. I don't remember what the conversation was. I do remember him making that statement, and that stuck with me. And it's not always about the money. Even with the KPIs that we learn about, your key performance indicators in the business, did you hit this goal? Did you hit this goal? There's different KPIs. What's the vibe of the shop? We have to be here 10, 11 hours a day. We have long days. Can we stand each other?
Yeah.
Are we going to help each other? Or is everybody just working on their own hours? How are your kids? How's your family? How's your mom? What's going on? And one of my newest guys, he's pretty young. He's 30, but he's still pretty young, and he admits to it. And I will tell him, say, hey, this is not HR. This is not your boss talking to you. This is your Aunt Tonnika. And I will get on him hard because he gets in his own way with feelings and overthinking. And he asked me on Wednesday this week, he said, how do you do that? And I said, it's not easy. Yeah. And I said, but you have to wonder, what if everything works out to be okay? Because he's a negative person. He knows it. And so, that's half the battle. I feel like if anybody crosses my path, whether it's a customer or an employee, I want them to want to show up at my funeral.
Yeah.
If I have to get rid of you or fire you, I want you to still have some sort of respect for me. For example, for me, if I've had 10 employees, if I fired 5 people, I know 2 of them cannot stand me, but that was their problem.
Yeah.
Well, but I've had to fire people. And this past year, one young lady that I fired, it was a very bad letting go. She came back to me just out the blue. I saw her pull up years later. I said, what in the world? Is she coming to shoot me? But she came in to apologize. And she came in to say, things that you would say would make a difference. So I want my employees to make good financial decisions. I want them to have good mental health. I want them to have good relationships with their kids and their moms and whatever. So if I see something and I feel like I can shed light, I'm going to say it. It might not be, correct with HR, but I am HR, so I get to do that.
There you go.
And if they're not with me forever, whatever skills I can offer them, customer service skills, communication skills, you can take that to another job. You can use that in your whole life.
Tonnika, what you just described is why your team has such a high level of respect for you. That really explains this beyond the paycheck type of mentality. And there's a phrase that I in my coaching that I teach, and that is, Tonnika, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't share this with you. Like, that's a good way to begin something that might be a difficult conversation to share with someone, but you're sharing it because you genuinely care about them. Because we know it's not easy. Like, it's not easy to share this information, but it's necessary, especially when you genuinely love and care for the people that you're serving as their leader. And so, everything you just shared, I think is fantastic. My hope is that when you listen to this episode again, that you hear the things that you're sharing, because to me, it's like, and I hope you hear this respectfully, how can you not see yourself as a leader? Like, you are incredible at what you do. You're an incredible leader. Again, I'm proud to know you, and I'm excited to keep on developing our relationship and seeing your own growth and being a part of your journey. But I just want to thank you for who you are to this industry. Thank you for being on this podcast. I'm going to continue to pester you to be a guest on the podcast again later on. This is not going to be your last time on the Limitless Leadership podcast. So before we go, I'll ask any parting words of wisdom, anything you want to share before we sign off on this episode?
Well, first of all, make sure everybody's there. The ASTA Expo,
yes.
September 25th, 2025. Yep. But also, I want everybody to give themselves a break mentally. I want everybody to, on the way home, in the car, or on the way to work, I want you to take your rearview mirror and I want you to look at yourself. And I want you to give yourself a pep talk. I want you to find your theme song and rock out to it. And if you have a bad day, try again tomorrow. Like, I want everybody to be just 1 degree happier than they were yesterday. Because
love that.
Life is short, but it is good. You know?
Yes.
So I want it's a whole bunch of happy people, and I want to see all the happy people at the expo.
There you go. Yeah. If you're thinking about coming, at the very least, Tonika's going to be there. That's the only reason you need to come to the ST Expo. So hopefully you're there. I will ask you one more question. What's your theme song? I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your theme song? Man,
I've got a whole list. So my favorite song is Number 41 by Dave Matthews Band. I can rock out that. That makes me so happy. Right now, let's see, what am I rocking to? Some Mary, Mary, Walking. So it depends. I will go country on you in a minute. I'll go hardcore, whatever. So I've got a list. I'll send it to you. It's a weird playlist.
Awesome. I'll take it.
Actually, it's Firestarter, The Prodigy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I've been on this week a lot.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, that might be the playlist we or the song we wrap up this episode with. So
there you go.
Tonnika, thanks again for being here. And thank you everyone for listening to the Limitless Leadership podcast. Have a great day. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.